My dad accidentally rear-ended a Dammy S680, facing the cold-faced young lady from the Beijing elite. My dad nervously asked, holding his head, "Can we pay in installments?" After saying that, he sent out my photo. This is my second generation. At that moment, I was dozing off in class. Suddenly, a beautiful girl walked into the classroom. With a bang, I was pulled back to reality. Blurrily opening my eyes, I could only see the stunning figure standing at the door. I was still captivated by her beauty when the girl walked straight towards me. Then she grabbed my hand. Pulling me, she headed towards the classroom exit. I stumbled along as she dragged me. A beauty is hard to catch. Let go. The homeroom teacher finally reacted from the shock. Quickly, he stepped forward and said, "Who are you, student? What do you want to do?" The girl slightly paused her steps. She looked at the homeroom teacher and replied coldly, "Luo Qingli." The three words were like thunderclaps. The entire school and even the whole city. Who doesn't know about this 18-year-old prodigy girl? She was directly admitted to the computer science department at Peking University in her second year of high school. The young lady of the Luo family, who took over the Luo group at such a young age. Luo Qingli's voice remained indifferent. "I have something urgent to attend to right now. Someone will explain it to you later." After saying that, she forcefully took me away, leaving the crowd dumbfounded. 10 minutes later, I was hunched over the trash can outside the hospital, gagging repeatedly. A red Lamborghini parked next to me. The driver's side door opened. Luo Qingli stepped out of the car. "Could you choose to throw up later when there's no one around? I really don't want others to misunderstand that I did something to you." I angrily wiped my mouth and looked at her. "Do you think I want to throw up? Your car is going so fast, are you rushing to be reincarnated?" Luo Qingli walked past me expressionlessly. A pleasant dominant woman's tone carried a hint of command. "Hurry up and keep up, sir. Meet." After saying that, I turned and wanted to hurry. After saying that, I turned and wanted to leave. Luo Qingli turned around, her eyes slightly narrowed. She warned in a chilly tone, "Try taking another step forward and see what happens. I'm telling you clearly. There is a life upstairs waiting for you to save. If you know what's good for you, you'd better follow me. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to send you to the afterlife." I was startled. At those words, I was taken aback. A life is waiting to be saved. I looked up. I realized this was a hospital. What about the stock? It's a strong step forward. Just as I entered the hospital corridor, a doctor hurriedly ran up to me. "Miss, you finally made it. Is this the gentleman?" The doctor glanced at me. Upon seeing my whole face, he was slightly surprised. Then he turned to the nurse and instructed her, "Prepare for surgery immediately." I looked utterly confused. What on earth is going on? Then I caught sight of the person lying in the hospital room. Who is that child lying on the bed over there? I looked at Luo Qingli in shock. "Your daughter?" Luo Qingli shot me a sideways glance. "I am 13 years old this year." I looked at her in even more shock. "You have a daughter at such a young age? 18 years old?" Luo Qingli turned to look at the doctor beside her. "My sister received his blood transfusion. Will it affect her intelligence?" The doctor explained seriously. "Miss Luo, please don't worry. Blood will not affect a person's intelligence." Saying this, he turned to me again. "Sir, I'm sure you are already aware of the general situation. The second young lady of the family had a car accident and needs an emergency blood transfusion. Unfortunately, she has a very rare blood type. Only your blood can match hers. Please follow me to the operating room immediately." Hearing this, I nodded without hesitation. Lying in the operating room, I watched as my blood was continuously drawn from the tube. I finally began to piece everything together slowly. The beautiful girl who forcefully brought herself here outside the operating room turned out to be the very famous Luo Qingli. Her sister was in a car accident. Because she has a rare blood type, finding a blood source is particularly difficult. And coincidentally, I also have a rare blood type. So Luo Qingli came looking for me. After finishing the blood transfusion, I sat down on the side to take a short rest. I pressed on my arm and turned to look. The second young lady of the Luo family had already stabilized her condition. She just kept her eyes closed and had not yet awakened. Luo Qingli was standing guard by the bedside. At this moment, there was a laptop resting on her lap. Her fingers were flying quickly over the keyboard. Rows of complex code swiftly scrolled across the computer screen. Luo Qingli was intently focused on the computer. After seeing the data displayed on the computer, she furrowed her brow slightly. Still, she couldn't find any information on him. To this day, there has been no trace of him. If he were still alive, he should have scars on his body. But why does it seem like the information has vanished from this world altogether? I, ignored and left aside, was quite dissatisfied. I nodded like a ghost. Luo Qingli ignored me. She expressionlessly closed the laptop. I gripped the spot where I had just been blood drawn, feeling disgruntled. "Aren't you going to say thank you to me, your life savior? After all, I did save her sister's life. I donated so much blood." But after coming out of the operating room, the girl glanced at me directly, and Luo Qingli looked as if she had heard the biggest joke in the world. Not having killed the Lin family is already her mercy. She raised her cold eyes to look at me and sneered. "Why should I thank you? And now there's a sense of righteousness." I was just about to curse. Just then, the hospital room door was pushed open. A middle-aged couple hurriedly walked in. Looking at the middle-aged man who walked in, I almost thought my eyes were deceiving me. Why is my dad here? My dad looked uneasily at Luo Qingli. A bead of sweat formed on his forehead. Rubbing her hands, she fixed her gaze on me. "How can you still say that? I called you just now, why didn't you answer? Your aunt and I just drove to pick you up from school. As a result, we hit the third miss of the Lu family." Miss Lu almost bled out. "Fortunately, I remembered in time that you also have a rare blood type. Your blood type matches that of the second miss. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what to do." My dad didn't dare to think further. The middle-aged woman beside her awkwardly smiled and nodded to Luo Qingli. Smiling, he nodded and bowed to Luo Qingli. Miss Luo, it's all our fault. Please calm down. Luo Qingli coldly scoffed and threw the computer aside. Just a minute ago, your son was just justifying himself, demanding that I thank him. I felt a burning sensation on my face. I had no idea things would turn out like this. No wonder Luo Qingli had been giving herself such a good face. She looked as if it was only natural. When the middle-aged woman heard this, her slightly raised eyes glared over. She said in a sharp voice, "You little brat, are you trying to stir up trouble for us on purpose? What gives you the right? Donating blood to the second miss is an honor for you. How dare you ask Miss Luo to thank you? Who do you think you are?" This woman is named Yang Wei. She is my dad's second wife. She's also my stepmother. 5 years ago, my mom became a vegetable due to an accident. So my dad decisively divorced my mom. As the mistress, Yang Wei successfully took her place. And my mom has been in a coma ever since. That was the year I suddenly lost everything. Everything is tied to this woman. Thinking of this, my hand unconsciously formed a fist. My brain buzzed. I couldn't help but want to step forward and slap her. My dad nudged me from the side. Wild. Dad pleaded. You should apologize to Miss Luo first. After all, it was our family that caused the third miss to have an accident. I couldn't help but chuckle. Our family. May I ask if I still have a family now? This woman personally chased me out. When I was kicked out of the Lin family gate. How is it that our family? Seeing that I was unmoved, Yang Wei pointed at me, her voice even sharper. Do you want to kill us? Did you go deaf when I told you to apologize to Miss Luo? Have you grown some wings? Can't I boss you around anymore? Come over and apologize to Miss Luo. As she spoke, she rolled up her sleeves and walked forward. She had the stance of someone ready to teach me a lesson. Luo Qingli stood up, her eyes filled with indifference. The sound is even warmer. Who gave you the guts? Do you think this is a place for your noisy arguments? Yang Wei quickly spoke up. No, that's not it. Miss Luo checkbox with check. Please listen to me. Luo Qingli's eyes were filled with impatience. The rest will be handled by lawyers. As for you, don't show up in front of me again. Yang Wei was flustered and panicked. It seems Miss Luo has no intention of forgiving the Lin family. Suddenly, a soft and gentle voice came from the hospital bed. Sister. Everyone turned their heads to look. They found the little girl who had been in a coma. Unbeknownst to me, I had already sat up. The little guy looks about 10 years old. There's a bandage wrapped around his forehead. His smooth hair looks soft. His exquisite little face is almost unreal. Those sapphire eyes sparkle like stars. Little one. Although he has a bit of baby fat. But his chin is slightly pointed. A standard little loli. Luo Qingli stepped forward, her face full of tenderness. Linger is awake. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Luo Linger poked her head with a wronged expression. It hurts here and there. Sister, what's wrong with me? I think I've lost a lot of blood. It's so scary and so terrifying. Brow. Luo Qingli furrowed her brow. She pressed down on the little guy's squirming. The doctor beside began to examine the little one's body. The doctor then smiled and took off the stethoscope. Miss Luo is mostly fine now, but she still needs to rest for a while. While saying this, the doctor gently rubbed Luo Linger's head. Second miss, please don't worry. You have already stabilized. The blood you lost. That brother over there has already used his own blood to replenish you. Luo Linger's clear big eyes turned. She focused her gaze on me and then smiled brightly. Her voice was crisp and pleasant. Little Pingbone. Thank you for saving Linger. I quickly raised my hand. It's nothing. The child smiled at me. How can I repay you, big brother? As she spoke, the little one furrowed her brows in thought. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. I have an idea, big brother. How about Linger marrying you as a wife? I almost choked on my own saliva. Luo Qingli tapped Luo Linger's little head. Linger, what are you thinking about? How old is he? Luo pouted her lips. So what? Age has never been an obstacle to love. I feel like I've been struck by lightning, crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Is that something a child under 10 years old would say? Are you willing to wait for Linger to grow up? Luo tilted her head and said in a childish voice. Sunlight poured in through the floor-to-ceiling window. She smiled innocently. Luo Qingli gave me a faint glance. Ignore her. You can settle that. No way. Big brother can't leave. Linger's leg is injured, she can't move. After saying that, she tried hard to cling to my arm. We haven't exchanged contact information yet. And Linger hasn't figured out how to repay big brother yet. Yang Wei, standing nearby, quickly agreed. No need to repay, no need to repay. It's his blessing to be able to donate blood to you. Don't even mention donating blood. As long as you are safe. Even if it means draining his blood, it's fine. Linger turned her head to look. Who are you? I am. Yang Wei felt a bit awkward. You can't say she is Lin Haoyu's stepmother, right? She hurriedly pushed my dad out. He is Lin Haoyu's father. We are all Haoyu's family. Linger frowned and said with a puzzled expression. Since you are Haoyu's family, then why did you just say about brother's blood? Wouldn't it hurt brother? Those words struck a chord with me. I lowered my gaze at this little girl tightly hugging her arms, afraid that I might leave her. Yang Wei pinched my dad's arm. She gave my dad a look. My dad quickly nodded and spoke humbly. Just as long as you are fine, that's all that matters. Everyone else is not important. Yang Wei quickly nodded in agreement. Head. Miss Second young lady. Who knew that Ji interrupted her words, turning to look at the incredibly noble girl behind. Sister. These two people are so noisy. Linger just woke up and needs to rest. Luo Qingli looked coldly at Yang Wei and my dad. How could Yang Wei leave so ambiguously? With the power of the Luo family. If Miss Luo is still not angry about the car accident, then their Lin group can only wait quietly to die, okay? Miss Lu. Luo Qingli always had a nonchalant expression, but her tone was precise. Don't make me repeat the same thing for the third time. Yang Wei turned pale with fright. Public. We are going out now. After saying that, she dragged my dad away, and didn't forget to glare at me. What are you still dazed for? Hurry up and get out. I retorted back. You try dying first and see. My dad hurriedly stopped Yang Wei. He turned his head to look. Wild. Hurry and come out. I let out a snort. Then I gently touched the little one's head and spoke softly. You're not correct. No translation needed, context dependent. You should rest well. No translation needed, context dependent. I looked at this lovely little girl with regret. No translation needed, context dependent. Then I got up and walked outside. The child was anxious. I was already heading back. No translation needed, unclear context. Brother, you, come back, sister. Quickly call brother back. He is Linger's life savior. Luo Qingli gently touched Linger's head and said softly. His family hit you, causing you to have a car accident. He was just paying off his family's debt. Linger was very direct. She was just short of rolling around on the bed. It doesn't matter. He is indeed Linger's life savior. I want him back. If you don't let him come back, from now on, I will never eat vegetables again. Luo Qingli looked at Luo Linger with some surprise. What you mean is that as long as he comes back, you will obediently eat vegetables in the future. She started counting on her fingers and said, as long as it brings back big brother, Linger will obediently eat vegetables for a whole week. She won't be picky at all. Luo Qingli frowned slightly. About a month. Linger seriously held up 10 fingers. Luo Qingli maintained her indifferent expression. Looking up, she cried out in pain, her head aching. Linger looked up at the sky. Sister is a bad egg. Bullying your own little sister is no skill at all. She occasionally stole glances at her sister's reaction. Luo Qingli turned away coldly. A month. If not, then forget it. Linger immediately stopped her noise. She hugged Luo Qingli's long legs tightly. Isn't it fine that Linger was wrong? A month is just a month. I only know how cunning my sister is. Then hurry and bring that young man back. Luo Qingli leisurely returned to the sofa. Hurry. I have a way to make him come back willingly. Her gaze swept over the book, but her expression seemed thoughtful. The boy's face lingered in her mind. She walked out of the hospital room. Yang Wei erupted like a volcano. She turned and glared at me. Nagano is good. I won't care about you for a few days. You're about to go too far. What was your attitude when you spoke to me just now? Don't you have any manners? My hand tightly formed a fist. I looked at her with a blank expression. You alone. How dare you talk to me about manners from here? The next second, a crisp slap landed on my face. I stared in shock at the person in front of me who was raising their hand. The action is still frozen in midair with the man. He is my dad. How can you speak to your aunt like that? Your aunt is your stepmother. What's wrong with teaching you a lesson? My dad glared at me, furious. Hurry up and admit your mistake to your aunt. I felt a burning pain on my face. Emotions surged like a tidal wave. Yang Wei looked at me with her arms crossed, reveling in my misfortune. She had the look of a petty person who had succeeded. This kid should be punished when necessary. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know his own last name. I pressed my lips together and slightly raised my chin. If I could choose, I would rather not be Lin. My dad's anger surged violently. He picked up his hand to hit me again. How did I raise such an ingrate? An ingrate? Who would have thought that in the next moment, someone would grab his arm? A faint scent of lavender enveloped me. I turned my head in shock. Today is a public day. Is it today? It's another super beautiful girl. This girl is wearing the same school uniform as Luo Qingli. Unlike Luo Qingli, who exudes a cool and aloof vibe, she shows grace in every gesture. Although I don't know what happened, but this is a public place. Please be mindful of your behavior. Even her voice is very gentle, like the soft breeze on a river. It seems to blow away all anger. My dad probably realized his impulsiveness just now, but he couldn't lower his pride. He glanced at me. He shrugged his sleeves and walked away with his hands behind his back. Yang Wei shot me a sideways glance. What a disgrace. I went up to her. The girl looked at me and asked, "Are you okay?" I brushed my messy hair aside and softly replied, "Thank you." The moment she saw my entire face, the girl looked a bit surprised. Everyone who sees my face and makes this kind of surprised expression, I instinctively tend to shy away. I hurriedly looked down and adjusted my bangs to cover my forehead. She noticed my little movement. The girl glanced away and smiled. Luckily, those two people were just really noisy earlier. Here, this is for you. The girl took a boiled egg out of the food bag she was carrying. Use this to apply on it. It can reduce swelling. I hesitated for a moment and then took it with both hands. Thank you. The girl smiled and waved her hand. You're welcome. Well, I'll take my leave now. I watched her silhouette. It wasn't until she had completely walked away that I realized. By the way, I still don't know her name. Even though I don't know her name, I feel like she is a really nice person. The ward door was pushed open. I leaned my hands on the windowsill and looked out. The little mouth kept chattering. Pot. Why hasn't brother come out? A gentle voice came through. The child turned and smiled happily. Sister Su Qing. Su Qing walked in with a smile, carrying a bag of food. Linger. Lunch is here. Go wash your hands and come eat. Linger shook her head. I want to wait for brother Haoyu. I want to wait for brother Yu. Su Qing directed her questioning gaze at her close friend Xingli. Luo Qingli was sitting sideways on the sofa. Her cold eyes were scanning the book in her hands. Without raising her head, she replied. A boy who donated blood for Linger. Just left. I see. Su Qing placed the food bag on the coffee table in the ward. She sat down on the sofa next to Luo Qingli. Speaking of which, that person still has no news? Luo Qingli gently hummed a tune. It felt like it had vanished into thin air. No valuable information could be retrieved at all. Su Qing rested her chin on her hand, deep in thought. It seems quite difficult to investigate. Then she laughed teasingly. If it's your idol, he might just be able to find out. 3 years ago, a hacker genius known as Echo emerged on the internet. He could infiltrate police systems without stealing any information. Instead, he provided evidence chains for a suspect who was under investigation. Of a suspect. 2 years ago, Echo was the most active in the online world. Although he was a hacker, he did many righteous deeds. And that year was the lowest point for Luo Qingli. Thinking of this, Luo Qingli's crystalline eyes brightened for a moment. She unconsciously nodded. What he said should work. Su Qing comfortingly patted Luo Qingli's shoulder. No rush, take your time. There will be a day when we find out. Topic. I have already left the hospital. Just walked out of the hospital entrance. A black Mercedes stopped right in front of me. The car window rolled down. My dad was driving the car. Yang Wei was sitting in the passenger seat. Your brother is still at home waiting for your aunt and me to come back for dinner. I won't drive you. Just take a taxi back to school by yourself. My dad said. He took some money from his wallet to hand it over. But unexpectedly, Yang Wei stopped him. Yang Wei looked at me with arrogance and spoke harshly. Why take a taxi? Do you have plenty of money? It's not far from the third high school. This is enough. He can just take the bus by himself. Saying that, she rolled up the car window. My dad wanted to say something, but he was shot down by a glare from Yang Wei. Helpless, he had no choice but to shift gears and drive away. I smiled softly. My cheeks are still a bit swollen. I simply sent a text to the homeroom teacher to ask for a leave. I decided not to go to school in the afternoon. Then I stuffed my phone into my bag and headed home. At the deepest part of the alley, with a creak, I pushed open the old iron gate. In the left room of the bungalow, a pale-faced middle-aged woman was lying there quietly. She had an oxygen mask on her nose. I tried to force a smile. Mom, I'm back. The woman didn't respond at all. 5 years ago, my mom and I were kicked out of the Lin family. My mom has been in a vegetative state and hasn't awakened since then. I walked up to her. I started to speak incessantly. Mom, so many things happened today. About the things that occurred. I told her everything in detail. I got up and tucked the blanket around my mom. Mom's gaze. I will definitely take good care of myself. You don't have to worry about me. I'm going to prepare dinner. You should get a good sleep. As I turned around and passed by the bathroom mirror, I slightly paused. I tilted my head to look at the left side of my face in the mirror. Then I ran my fingers through my thick bangs. Once again, I covered my cheeks. I quickly stepped past the donation box. The next morning, I got up. I didn't sleep well last night. I actually dreamed about Luo Qingli's icy face. In the dream, Luo Qingli was pulling at me. She laughed arrogantly like a yandere. She said I couldn't escape anymore. She also wanted to drain my blood. I was so scared that I still felt lingering fear when I got up. On the way to school, yawning, I walked weakly toward the classroom. As soon as I walked into the classroom, everyone fell silent. Everyone turned their heads to look at me. I blinked my eyes. A classmate in the front row smiled and asked, "What brings you here?" I looked up at the class sign. Senior year class 6. Wrong class. 2.5 seconds later, several boys in the class exploded with excitement, surrounding me completely. Lin Haoyu, what is your relationship with Luo Qingli? Where did you go yesterday? How do you know Miss Luo? Quick, tell us. Bought a step ahead. Can you all take turns? These people are all crowding around. It's overwhelming. I'm almost drowning. At this moment, a boy in class spoke sarcastically. Lin Haoyu, no matter what methods you used to get close to Miss Luo, unfortunately, you've already been expelled. You must know that, right? I widened my eyes in shock. Why were you expelled? That boy looked at me with glee. I couldn't dare to speak carelessly. This is what the homeroom teacher personally told us yesterday afternoon. Just as I was speaking, the homeroom teacher walked in. Everyone, get ready. Class is about to start. I immediately stepped forward to ask. They said I was expelled. What does that mean? The homeroom teacher glanced at me. It means exactly what it says. Your belongings have already been packed. Hurry up and take them away. I looked confused. The homeroom teacher said with a frown. Unexcused absence. If I don't expel you, who will I expel? It's extremely urgent. But I was forced to be taken away yesterday. You all saw it. You all pause. And I also asked for leave in the afternoon. I also asked you for leave. The homeroom teacher impatiently interrupted me. All right. Stop talking. This is all the principal's decision. Lin Haoyu, you have been expelled. I was completely stunned. Just then, a classmate walked into the classroom. Lin Haoyu, someone is looking for you outside. I turned my head to see. To my surprise, my dad was standing at the door. The sun has risen in the west. I can't believe my dad actually came to find me in person. The moment our eyes met, my dad warmly waved at me, gesturing to stop. I still vividly remember the slap from yesterday. If possible, I really want to pretend I didn't see. His tone was not good. My dad looked at me with a face full of guilt. Well, Haoyu, yesterday was my dad's fault. That's why I came to find you early this morning. I want to apologize to you in person. Hearing this, I don't know why. I lowered my gaze and fell silent. Dad will take you out to find a good place to talk. After saying that, my dad pushed my back and walked me outside. I did not refuse. We arrived at the dessert shop across from the school. My dad pointed to the menu. What do you want to eat? How about the mango mousse cake? Your brother loves this the most. He often buys several at a time. I glanced at the price. A small piece costs 40. That's equivalent to my living expenses for 2 days. These are not the most important things. What matters is that I'm allergic to mangoes. Every time I eat them, I break out in a rash all over. A trace of confusion flashed in my dad's eyes. Then let's change it. Tiramisu should be fine, right? I held the glass cup in my hands. I softly replied. It lit up something. My dad finally got to the point. Do you remember the second miss of the Liu family from yesterday? 1000. That adorable little face instantly popped into my mind. I remember. My dad anxiously fiddled with the watch on his wrist. The second Mrs. car accident was caused by our Lin family, although she is no longer here now. But you know, the family's influence. If they really pursue responsibility, our Lin group would only end up in trouble. Now they've made their intentions clear. As long as you take care of the second miss of the Luo family for a month, until the second miss has fully recovered, our family won't hold us accountable anymore. Hearing this, I heard this. What apologies, what fatherly love. All of it is. The real purpose is here. I actually fantasize that this heartless father would suddenly have a change of heart and start to care about me. I gasped and stood up directly. I won't be held accountable. Why should I pay for the mistakes the woman made? Seeing this, my dad quickly said, how you? Right now, only you can save the Lin family. Dad, I'm begging you. I looked at him angrily. I'm telling you clearly. I won't pay for that woman's mistakes. When softness didn't work, my dad immediately changed his tone. Forget it. You've already been expelled from school. I looked at him in disbelief. Don't tell me. You had a hand in me being expelled from school. He glanced at me and casually said, Dad is just reminding you. You no longer have a school to attend. But if you agree, Dad will immediately transfer you to the top school. You can start attending classes there tomorrow. There's no need to stay in such an ordinary high school. I clutched my own hands. I was not convinced at all in my heart. I still firmly spoke up. No direct translation needed. Contextually implies finality or completion. I won't do that. This is a matter of principle. Seeing that I disagreed, my dad finally slammed the table and stood up. I raised you to this point. You can't be swayed by such a trivial matter. Do you have any conscience at all? Even if I were raising a dog, it should know gratitude after being raised. I clearly tell you, if you don't go, your mother's surgery fee. Don't think you can get another penny from me. She is going to have surgery next month, right? There's no money. Let's see how you support that woman. This statement truly hit my soft spot. I bit my lower lip tightly, turning it pale. Finally gave in. Good. My dad's face finally lit up with joy. He immediately arranged a car to take me to the Luo family. Inside the luxurious villa of the Luo family, Luo Qingli was sitting elegantly there, eating slowly and methodically. Today's lunch was Chinese cuisine. Rice accompanied by a variety of colorful and flavorful stir-fried dishes. Luo Qingli elegantly took a sip of her soup, glancing at the little one sitting next to her, propping up her chin. A child poking at the rice with chopsticks. Child, are you playing by counting the grains of rice? How do you know, sister? Linger is really good at math now. I'll count for you, okay? Saying this, Luo Linger seriously transferred all the rice from her bowl into her sister's bowl. Mumbling, 8. Luo Qingli placed her chopsticks on the bowl. Leaning back against the chair, she crossed her arms and watched her grand ancestor. A small frame for a small body. Go back. Placed her hands on her own legs. Luo Qingli's voice was cool and sexy. What did you say yesterday at the hospital? No food allowed for a month. Luo Linger only remembers hitting her head. She can't remember many things. Is that really the case? Luo Qingli let out a cold laugh. Is that so? Then you'd better forget about that little guy too. You'll never see her again in this lifetime. Luo Linger hurriedly looked at her sister. Seeing her sister's cold expression, she sniffed in grievance. Then she looked up and started crying out loud. Sister is a bad egg. Always bullying Linger. I don't want a sister anymore. Child is not to be. Is not to belong. A magical child who cries astonishingly and cannot stop. Nothing works no matter what you say. Luo Qingli, such an all-capable young girl. Perhaps the thing she is least good at is dealing with little kids. She rubbed her forehead, feeling a headache. Then she coldly glanced at the person beside her. Are you all statues or something? What are you all staring blankly for? Aren't you going to comfort her? The servants were flustered, trying to comfort her. Unfortunately, Luo Linger was crying horrendously. The more they comforted her, the harder she cried. Luo Linger, if you keep crying, be careful, or I might really make it so you can never see that person again. Her cries intensified even more. Laughter increased again. The person felt speechless but didn't dare to show it. Miss, can't you see this is not the time? Luo Qingli continued to give a cold warning. I'm warning you. Don't think you can threaten me with tears. You know I won't fall for that. The servant was on the verge of tears, feeling helpless. Miss, please, I beg you to be quiet. Just then, the butler walked over. Miss, Mr. Lin has arrived. Luo Qingli hasn't spoken yet. Luo Linger's cries suddenly stopped. Luo Qingli shot a glance at Luo Linger. Why did you stop crying? The corner of the little one's eyes is still glistening with tears. Blinking her bright and sparkling eyes. Her voice, tinged with tears, revealed a hint of excitement. Brother Hao Yu really came. Hurry up and let him in. The butler is waiting for Luo Qingli to speak. Luo Qingli leisurely took a napkin to wipe her mouth. Let him in. The luxury of the Luo family villa is simply blinding. It's a sigh that comes from the depths of my heart. I am indeed a poor person. Such a big villa. Do the people living here really not get lost? From a distance, I saw a noble figure. An incredibly distinguished young girl was sitting by the dining table. Luo Linger happily wanted to jump down from the wheelchair she made. Although the Luo family has a private doctor, they allowed her to be discharged to rest at home. But after all, she lost so much blood yesterday, and her leg is still wrapped in thick bandages. It's wrapped up like a little dumpling. Without anyone to help, she couldn't move at all. This made the little one very anxious. Upon seeing the little angel, I felt like my heart was about to melt. I went up. I squatted down and smiled back. Is it nice today? How are you feeling today? How come you're discharged so quickly? The child smiled and replied, because my sister said that the hospital's environment and doctors are not as pleasant as at home. So I went back home to recover this morning. I twitched my lips. I turned my head to look at the girl behind me. She tucked her bangs to cover her forehead. She opened her mouth to speak. My dad told me, I will take good care of Luo Linger this month, until her leg injury is fully healed. Honestly, as long as I take care of her for a month as compensation, it's really a bargain for the Lin Group. But the stock, but the power. Who made Luo Linger pester me all day long? To see the brother who donated blood for her? What's so good about this guy anyway? Luo Qingli coldly averted her gaze. She picked up the spoon and continued drinking the soup. It was as if she couldn't hear my words. On the surface, I'm smiling, but inside I'm cursing. I'm talking to this deadpan person. Would it kill you to respond? Such rudeness. The butler nearby skillfully spoke up to ease the awkwardness. Mr. Lin, you should persuade the second young lady. She's already feeling weak because of yesterday's car accident. She needs to restore her strength. However, our second young lady is famously picky with food. No one can persuade her. Just now, because of the meal issue, she was even scolded to tears by the eldest young lady. Only then did I notice that there were indeed teardrops at the corners of Luo Linger's eyes. Before I came here, I had already clarified my position. I consciously stood up. May I borrow the kitchen for a while? The butler nodded when he saw that Luo Qingli did not refuse. Please follow me. 15-minute interval. I walked over with a small tray. Upon closer inspection, I was surprised to see that the tray was arranged into mini cartoon shapes with food, carrots and some vegetables, cut into the shape of small tree flowers. This way, the plate of food became very interesting. The overall appearance improved as well. Look, little one. Would you like to try this? Luo Linger's eyes lit up as she nodded eagerly. Yes, yes. Then she lowered her head and ate happily. Linger is a child who holds no grudges. Meng Meng turned her head to look at Luo Qingli. Sister, you should give it a try. This rice ball is really delicious. Luo Qingli scoffed disdainfully. Childish. It's all made of rice. It's just reshaped into a different design. Just because it looks like a pig, you think it's delicious? I clearly shaped it like a bear, okay? Luo Linger made a small sound. Her little mouth was puffed up. But it really is delicious. Luo Qingli didn't speak anymore. Linger's picky eating is the most troubling issue for the entire Luo family. This man casually changed the style, and he managed to appease Luo Linger. She had already finished her meal. She picked up the delicate teacup and elegantly took a sip of tea. You should be glad that what you made can temporarily fool her. That way, you won't seem completely useless. I was instantly infuriated. Luo Qingli, can't you speak more pleasantly? Luo Qingli continued sipping her tea leisurely. Do you think I need to say nice things to please you? She clearly had an expression that said this is what you should be doing. I really wanted to turn the teapot upside down in front of me. On that beautiful yet infuriating face. It's really good. My gaze fell on the tea set not far away. I immediately planned to pick up the tea set and approach. Young lady, I know that Linger's car accident is our family's responsibility. I'm just here to apologize for my family, right? Please don't be angry. I'll serve you tea. Luo Qingli glanced at me sideways. I eagerly approached her. With one hand. Suddenly, my hand slipped in. With my exclamation of, not good, I watched as the tea was about to spill all over Luo Qingli. But unexpectedly, she was quick and agile. I immediately stood up. The cup did not spill on Luo Qingli. Instead, it shattered on the chair. Then the tea splashed all over me and my face. I wiped my face. I nearly lost my temper. Luo Qingli, why are you hiding? Luo Qingli leisurely crossed her arms. She looked like she had everything under control. Aren't you just waiting to be doused on purpose? You fool. I replied innocently. Don't slander me for no reason. Don't pretend to be a good person. I just have a little slip of the hand. Luo Qingli maintained her crossed arm stance, her voice clear. It's best to avoid such shaky hands in the future. That one you broke just now was worth 10,000. Butler Li. Remember to collect the money when Lin Haoyu leaves. Hearing this, Butler Li was taken aback. Miss wouldn't care about such a trivial 10,000. It's probably intentional to mess with Mr. Lin. Then, she looked at me with immense sympathy, as I was stunned. Poor Mr. Lin actually has to actively provoke the cunning young lady. I stood there dumbfounded. You need to know this as a cupholder, a member of the Long Knowledge. I won't partake in this malicious act. I immediately changed my demeanor. Young lady, is it not enough that I admit my mistake? I won't dare to in the future. Luo Qingli sneered coldly. Put away your fake smile. I immediately changed my expression. I promise it won't happen again in the future. She cast me a sidelong glance. If you want to repay your family's debts, at the very least, you need to show some sincerity. Head. I will make clear my own position. Luo Linger had almost finished what I did. She patted her little belly and couldn't help but speak up. Sister, please don't bully brother. Listen, Luer is simply a little angel. A great demon like Luo Qingli is. How could there be such an angelic little sister? She truly is a miracle of the world. Luo Qingli said coldly. Listen, I admit you know how to flatter my sister, but I hate fools the most. So within the limited possibilities, keep the farthest distance from me. After saying that, she turned around. With her long legs, she walked towards the second floor. As she walked, she instructed the servants. Make a cup of coffee and send it to her room. There's a new program to be written in the afternoon. Don't bother me at all. I gritted my teeth. I lightly kicked the table leg in frustration. I really hate this woman's lofty demeanor. Luo Qingli paused her steps. Her beautiful profile was etched with layers of light and shadow behind her. That look clearly expressed that you have objections. First, pay back the 10,000 yuan you just lost before we talk. My momentum was gradually diminished under such a gaze. Finally, I awkwardly smiled. Both big and small jobs are strong. Many of my friends are playing the games from your company. In front of Luo Qingli, I currently feel a deep sense of defeat that makes it hard to lift my head. I walked back to the dining table with my arms drooping. Lu began to comfort me seriously. Don't hold my sister to the same standards. She's actually a very nice person. All right. I really can't see what's so good about her. I gritted my teeth and counted on my fingers, listing everything. She's both arrogant and sharp-tongued. She looks like a wicked capitalist all over. Moon. Little brother. Luo Linger tugged at my sleeve. She weakly pointed behind me. Before I could turn around, I was enveloped by a wave of cold, icy pressure. No way. I turned my head slowly, almost like a machine. When I faced Luo Qingli's extraordinarily beautiful face, she raised an eyebrow expressionlessly, her voice cold. And what? Continue. I bit my lip and racked my brain to speak. I mean, even though you're arrogant and sharp-tongued, you're also very beautiful. Not only that, you are especially beautiful. And also, I tugged at my bangs to cover my forehead. There are other things. I'll tell you when I remember. Luo Qingli picked up the laptop she had forgotten earlier. She gave me a meaningful glance. Luo Linger looked at Luo Qingli cutely, her voice crisp. Sister, can you tidy up a room for the big brother to stay in? In response was a dominant woman's tone that left no room for refusal. No, you can't. Luo Linger pouted. Why the pout? What's wrong? Didn't we agree that before your leg injury heals, Brother Hao Yu would always keep me company? Luo Qingli frowned slightly. Because I don't want to live under the same roof as someone who can't even flatter properly. I don't want to share a roof with such a foolish person. You make it sound like I would be eager to move in. Luo Qingli had been working all afternoon. I haven't seen her since. When dinner time arrived, she prepared a unique children's dinner for the little one. Doesn't your sister have classes? I heard last time that Luo Qingli just turned 18. Luo Linger shook her head. My sister was already recommended to study at Tokyo University when she was in her second year of high school. So it doesn't really matter whether she goes to school now or not. How can there be such a big difference between people? Although my grades are also good, they definitely aren't good enough to be directly recommended for top universities. God is truly unfair, almost giving all the wonderful things to that privileged few upstairs. I turned my head to glance at the time. It was already 8 in the evening. I got up and turned to Luo Linger. I stood up and looked around. Brother is home. She hurriedly put down the food. Her sapphire-like eyes looked at me nervously. Will you still come tomorrow? I smiled and squeezed her soft little face. I will take care of you all the time, until your leg injury is completely healed. This was the deal I made with my dad. I will take care of the little one for a month. My dad will transfer me to a prestigious school in the capital. Time. And he will cover the costs for my mom's surgery. Speaking of which, I should report to the new school tomorrow. I need to go back today to prepare a bit. Thinking of this, I gently touched Linger's head and said softly, it's a pity that starting tomorrow. Brother, I'm afraid I can only come and look after you after school or during breaks. At this, she looked sad. Does that mean I won't get to eat your breakfast tomorrow? I winked at her. There are limits to what you can eat. If you don't believe it, there are no restrictions. You can check when you get up tomorrow. Luo Linger's face was full of anticipation, her eyes sparkling. After I left, Betle, Luo Linger instantly went from an energetic state to a deflated balloon. The servant pushed her wheelchair upstairs. Luo Linger knocked on Luo Qingli's door. Her little head poked inside. Sister, I'm going to sleep now. Can you tell me a story? Luo Qingli had just finished writing the program. Half of her beautiful face was dimly visible in the darkness. She looked very tired, but it did not affect her demeanor at all. Instead, it added an indescribable charm. She got up and reached to turn off the lamp on her desk. Okay, I will tell you a story. After soothing my sister to sleep, it was already 10 o'clock at night. Luo Qingli finally felt a hint of hunger. She went downstairs to the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator to take a look. In the most prominent spot was a plate. Inside was my signature kid's meal. There was also a note on top. Tomorrow morning. Just heat it up a little and it's ready to eat. Luo Qingli chuckled softly. This was made by that man for Luo Linger. Her long fingers picked up the rice ball she had mocked earlier that day. For some inexplicable reason, she took a bite. It was awful. That said, Luo Qingli still finished the entire rice ball. She ate it all in bites. The next morning, the weather was bad. It was drizzling lightly. Afraid of traffic jams, I woke up an hour earlier. I caught the earliest bus. I got off at the nearest stop to the school. Then I walked to school. Meanwhile, at the entrance of Beijing No. 1 Middle School, in the passenger seat of a black Mercedes-Benz, sat a boy with an exquisite appearance in the driver's seat. Lin Chen complained unhappily. Dad, why did you transfer that annoying person to my school? My dad had a sincere look as he tried to please me. Xiao Chen, don't get angry first. You should pay more attention to your image. You do have a bit of fame now. Be careful, there might be paparazzi taking your photo. Upon hearing this, Lin Chen's expression worsened. Don't joke around. In the past 2 years, my resources have been nothing but bad movies. Or some pitiful little commercials. In my current state, even if I walk down the street without sunglasses, no one would recognize me, right? And what about being secretly photographed? Are you intentionally mocking me? Lin Chen's aggressive tone was exactly like her biological mother, Yang Wei. At least I call you dad. And this is how you treat me. Good resources will never help me get them. Now I have to share a school with that jinx. Are you still planning to bring that vegetable to the Lin family too? Lin Yuandong awkwardly drove back. Xiao Yuan. The entertainment industry is not as easy to navigate as you think. Even if you're rich, without connections and relationships, it's still useless. After speaking, Lin Yuandong sighed deeply. How you wish the Lin family could produce a star. That would greatly benefit the Lin Group's film industry. Now the eldest son is disfigured. There's only the younger one left to nurture. But his social status limits his access to big directors, not to mention good resources. Sometimes, whether one becomes famous really depends on luck. But Lin Chen couldn't care less about this. Stop with this nonsense already. He could be famous 5 years ago. But it wouldn't work for me now. I think you're doing this on purpose. My mom and I have endured so much suffering over the years. You've suffered so much injustice. Dad, have you forgotten everything? Lin Yuandong sighed again. Dad knows he's sorry for you and your mom. So he wants to double the compensation for you both. In this house now, everything is determined by your mom. Lin Chen snorted coldly. So now you still want Lin Haoyu and me to be in the same school? I get annoyed just seeing him. Lin Yuandong felt somewhat helpless. Haven't I been explaining all along? Isn't it because our family hit the second miss of the Luo family? They specifically requested your brother to take care of the second miss. If I don't use some tricks to give your brother a little incentive, would he obediently listen to me? Lin Chen seemed uninterested in hearing so many explanations and said coldly, he's not my brother. After saying that, he pushed open the car door and walked toward the school. In the distance, he saw that familiar yet annoying figure. I quickly walked up. On the other side, I felt myself. I finally made it to the school gate. Because I had been walking in the rain for a long time. My shoes were soaked, making me look a bit disheveled. Suddenly, someone bumped into me hard. It caught me off guard. I fell directly into the puddle in front of me. The umbrella in my hand also fell to the ground. After steadying myself, I frowned and looked back. I was stunned when I saw who it was. Lin Chen. Compared to my disheveled state, my half-brother appeared much more elegant. I didn't want to do anything. Even if it was just because I found you unpleasant to look at. I wanted to teach you a lesson. I'm not a softie. I stood up straight. I raised my foot and kicked him. Lin Chen. Are you looking for trouble first thing in the morning? Lin Chen staggered back a few steps and glared at me with anger. Do you dare to push me? I lifted my chin. So what if I push you? I can't stand you either. So I want to teach you a lesson. Is that not allowed? Lin Chen shouted angrily as he pointed at me. What are you so proud of? 5 years ago, your mother was defeated by my mother. Now she deserves to be a vegetable. I heard she's still lying at home, not dead yet. Lin Chen laughed mockingly. I took deep breaths repeatedly. I tried hard to suppress the urge to chop Lin Chen up inside. I warn you. I can be indifferent to everything else. But if you dare to say another word about my mother, just try it. Lin Chen smugly replied. From the moment my mom and I were brought back to the Lin family 5 years ago, the moment my dad brought us back to the Lin family, you lost. For the rest of your life, you'll be under my foot. You'll never get a chance to turn things around. After all, it's the first day at a new school. I really don't want to attract trouble for no reason. I gritted my teeth and repeatedly told myself not to get angry anymore. I turned around and got up. For someone like Lin Chen, the best approach is not to argue with him. Instead, it's to ignore him completely. As expected, Lin Chen felt very uncomfortable being ignored. Right now is the peak time for school. Students kept passing by with umbrellas. Seeing the quarrel between me and Lin Chen, they all walked by while glancing at us. Isn't that Lin Chen, the heartthrob of the first year? He's quite handsome. I've heard he has filmed many commercials. He has over 2 million followers on Weibo. Who is that guy next to him? I've never seen him before. Then there was a suddenly lowered voice. Hey, did you see that? That guy has a really scary scar on his face. Oh my god, that's terrifying. It sounds so good for a long time. My heart raced. He quickly grabbed his bangs down. The scar extends from the forehead to the left cheek. Even though the hair between my brows covers it, it can still be faintly seen. Shocking at first glance. These past 5 years, my greatest fear has been others looking at me, with eyes that regard me as a monster. Lin Chen looked at my awkward expression with satisfaction. A wave of pleasure surged in his heart. Lin Haoyu, you deserve it. I've told you that you'll never get back on your feet with me. The rain continues to pour down desperately. It gradually drenches my face. I need to find an umbrella quickly. My gaze desperately searches for an umbrella. Just then, above my head, the rain was suddenly blocked. I looked up. I stared blankly at the umbrella above my head. Then I shifted my gaze to in front of me. At this gentle and charming girl. She seemed surprised and curved her thin lips. It's you. The surroundings instantly buzzed with excitement. Wow, it's the school beauty, Sue. Sue, the school beauty, looks breathtakingly beautiful today. Her smile is so warm. Why is Sue giving that ugly guy cover from the rain? She handed me my umbrella and softly said, the rain is getting heavier. You'll catch a cold if you don't use an umbrella. I took the umbrella, nodded, and said thank you. Su Ching smiled gently when we met. This line appears to be incomplete or an error. Your opening line is always this sentence. I awkwardly turned my head. What's wrong? But it does seem to be the case. This is the second time we met. Every time, she saved me like an angel. Lin Chen was stunned beside us. How do you two know each other, Su? Can someone tell him what's going on? Why does Su know Lin Haoyu? Su is one of the 3 school beauties. Su Ching seemed not to see Lin Chen at all. Her gaze was solely focused on me. Did you just transfer here today? Which class? I looked at her and nodded. Class 3. Su Ching smiled and said, I'll walk you to your classroom. The school is very large. It's easy to get lost if it's your first time here. I felt a bit flattered. Really? Isn't that too much trouble? Su Ching smiled and waved her hand. Not at all. So, in the envious and resentful gazes of a group of boys, Su Ching and I walked away, sharing an umbrella. Lin Chen, ignored on the side, clenched his teeth in anger. Why does the school beauty treat this ugly guy so well? Why does Lin Haoyu deserve this? Walking around the campus, I turned to the gentle and charming girl beside me and asked, I still don't know your name. My name is Lin Haoyu. Su Ching repeated my surname. She scrutinized me a few more times. I asked with some confusion, is it really that heavy? Su Ching shook her head. I just feel like you resemble someone. I blinked my eyes. With my current face, who would be so unfortunate to look like me? Also, besides that, Su Ching's fair and beautiful fingers held the black umbrella handle. She tilted her head and read out a name. She looked at a name, Tien. 5 years ago, 3 children just over 10 years old formed an idol group and officially entered the entertainment industry. This group's name was called Wave Light Years. And that boy named Lin Tien was the leader of this group. At that time, the 3 boys in Wave Light Years were extremely popular. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. In just a year's time, the group leader was involved in a kidnapping incident. It resulted in his face being disfigured. From then on, he completely withdrew from the entertainment industry. There has been no news so far. That once very popular idol group has also gradually faded from people's sight. Hearing the name Su Ching, I paused in my steps, a shocked expression as if struck by lightning. Su Ching looked at my reaction with some confusion. Do you know him too? I shook my head quickly. I don't know, I'm not clear, I don't understand. Su Ching said with a smile. Well, you see, he will be a very popular star. Hearing this, I immediately explained. Actually, I don't really follow the entertainment circle. Moreover, this happened 5 years ago. How could I remember? Su Ching did not continue this topic. Soon we reached the entrance of the teaching building. She put away the umbrella. Wait for me here for a moment. She returned 3 minutes later. Surprisingly, she was holding a band-aid in her hand. Then she looked at me and said with a smile, Extend your hand. Didn't you notice your hand is injured? Only then did I notice that my palm was hurt. It must be from when I just fell and scraped myself. Su Ching carefully applied a band-aid on me. Only then did she nod in satisfaction. Take good care of yourself. Don't let yourself get hurt again. This girl is incredibly gentle. I watched her back, feeling a bit lost. You still haven't told me your name. Su Ching turned around and smiled at me. My name is Su Ching. After saying that, she turned and walked into the teaching building. I arrived in the restroom. I looked into the mirror in front of me. This band-aid is fine. This one isn't bad either. I lifted my hair and peeled off the scar patch. A stunningly handsome face appeared in the mirror. It revealed a strong aura of confidence. I looked completely different from just a moment ago. I sighed as I looked at the mirror. I had gotten used to my scarred face. Suddenly, I seemed to return to my true self. I actually feel a bit unaccustomed to the way I look. I reapply the scar patch. I look at this ugly appearance in the mirror. I nod in satisfaction. I recall Su Ching's words just now. I pulled out my own hand and I hesitated for a moment. I logged into a Weibo account I hadn't used in a long time. The account verification information clearly states that this account hasn't updated new content for 5 years. I checked the number of visits on the homepage yesterday. There were only about 1 or 2,000 people. The entertainment industry is such a rapidly changing place. 5 years is enough time to completely forget someone. At that moment, my phone suddenly rang. I jumped in surprise and hurriedly answered the call. On the other end was a familiar voice. Hey, how you? You finally decided to log in, huh? The guy on the other end was Song Ming, my childhood best friend. Have you been doing well lately? I answered with utmost sincerity. I'm doing okay. Barely hanging on. Call me at this time. Aren't you not allowed to bring your phone during school? Song Ming smiled and said, I didn't go to school today. I'm at home. Then I suddenly remembered just now. It's been 5 years since that agreement. There are only 3 months left. But why do you sound so certain? You were the most attractive among the 3 of us back then. I couldn't help but feel flattered. It's obviously me who was directly involved. Song Ming spoke angrily. Song Ming countered back. I'm just speaking up for you. If it weren't for the situation. I smiled and interrupted him. All right. 5 years exactly. Isn't it about to be over soon? Song Ming emphasized again. There are still 3 months. You can be free from that contract. Speaking of which, Lin Chen the useless one probably still doesn't know. He thought if he kicked you out, he would become popular. So what happened? Without you, he is still an 18th tier little star now. He can't become popular at all. I really want to see his expression when he sees your current looks in 3 months. The look of being slapped in the face. It must feel great. I smiled and said, You're so far away from me. I'm afraid I won't be able to see it in person. If possible, I'll try to video call you the live broadcast. Song Ming was a bit excited. In a few days, I'm moving back to the capital with my mom. And Yi Chung will be back in the country soon too. By then, the three of us can be together every day. There was a hint of joy in Song Ming's voice. I was also a bit excited. What you said is all true. I looked at the time. I hurriedly spoke up. I won't talk to you for now. A lot has happened to me in the past couple of days. I'll tell you in person when we meet. After turning off my phone, I looked in the mirror. I repeatedly checked if my makeup was still okay, casual and relaxed. At that moment, I felt a cold, graceful figure pass by. A powerful aura enveloped the surroundings. This feeling is not good. I turned around to take a look. Sure enough, it was her. It was like a conditioned reflex. I instantly distanced myself from Luo Qingli. My entire back was pressed against the wall behind me. I don't know why. First, it was this person. There was an imposing aura that felt distant and unapproachable. Every time I see him, I inexplicably feel a bit intimidated. Luo Qingli, you came to the restroom personally? As soon as the words left my mouth, I immediately wanted to bite my own tongue off. What on earth was I just saying? To prevent Luo Qingli from getting sharp-tongued on the previous topic, I quickly changed the subject again. Aren't you curious why I suddenly appeared at Beijing No. 1 High School? Luo Qingli looked at me expressionlessly. Are you, by any chance, someone who fell from the sky? Should I still express curiosity about her sudden appearance? I was instantly choked up. A normal person would be surprised, right? However, I heard from Linger that Luo Qingli has already been admitted to college. So it doesn't matter whether I come to school or not. Moreover, Luo is so young. She has already started taking over the family business. She must be very busy. I stepped forward and couldn't help but ask, why did you come to school today? I thought you wouldn't come to school anymore from now on. Luo Qingli glanced at the band-aid on my hand. She nonchalantly asked, what happened to your hand? I put on a nonchalant expression. I just accidentally scraped it when I fell. Luo Qingli let out a cold laugh. You can fall even when walking properly. Why don't you just fall and die? I was somewhat shocked. Luo Qingli, did you come to school just to mock me on purpose? Luo Qingli took out a piece of paper to wipe her hands. She coldly opened her mouth. Is the school owned by your family? I shook my head. No, it's not. Then why do you care about me? After saying that, Luo Qingli crumpled the paper and threw it into the trash can. She turned and walked away. I quietly murmured as I watched her figure. Truly has a poker face like an iceberg. After speaking, I hummed a song and reached the end of the third-floor corridor. I looked up at the class sign. Third-year class. This is where I made a mistake. I gently pushed open the door. The originally lively class fell silent in an instant. Everyone turned to look at me. I instinctively ran my fingers through my hair to cover my cheeks. Ever since I started hiding my appearance, I developed an unconscious habit. Hello, everyone. My name is Lin Haoyu. I just transferred to this class today. I hope we can get along well in the future. The students in the front row began to whisper. Lin Haoyu. Seems like the one who was flirting with the school beauty Sue in broad daylight. Let me tell you all. Just now, when I passed by the restroom, I actually saw Miss Luo. How could they be flirting with our campus beauty, Luo Qingli? The lovesick students in the class were first surprised that Luo Qingli came to school today. Because Luo Qingli rarely comes to school. It's truly hard to see her. Then they were angered by the next comment. What did you say? This ugly freak actually has the courage to flirt with campus beauty, Luo Qingli. This absolutely cannot be tolerated. Lin Chen is also in this class. Watching me being ridiculed by so many people, he felt extremely pleased inside. I stood at the door, clutching my backpack straps tightly. I ignored these people. I calmly walked in. I chose an empty seat in the back where no one was sitting. The whole time, it was as if I couldn't hear the ridicule from these people earlier. Lin Chen, sitting in front, glared at me. He didn't manage to anger Lin Haoyu. Instead, he made himself quite angry. What he hates the most is Lin Haoyu's demeanor. What is he pretending to be magnanimous for? How could he not be angry after being scolded by so many people? I'm afraid he's probably already furious inside. He pretends to be indifferent on the surface. He's truly a hypocritical and disgusting person. During the break, I got up to go to the bathroom. I noticed that there wasn't even anyone to accompany me to the bathroom. Although I've gotten used to being isolated, I still felt a bit reflective inside. I really hope Song Ming and Yi Chung can come and keep me company soon. I was lost in a jumble of thoughts. I turned and headed towards the stairs. Little did I know, the next second I bumped straight into Lin Chen. I was utterly speechless. Lin Chen, what are you up to this time? I don't have time to bicker with you. As I said this, I wanted to sidestep him. Lin Chen grabbed my arm. He glared at me and spoke harshly. Lin Haoyu, you'd better honestly explain. What is your relationship with Miss Luo? I glanced at him. What relationship do I have with him? What business is it of yours? Lin Chen stared at me fiercely. I warn you. Don't push your luck. Luo School Belle will be my girlfriend in the future. Stay away from her from now on. I smiled, deliberately trying to provoke him. I forgot to tell you. Oh, I forgot to collect it. I see Luo Qingli every day. Her sister really likes me too. Lin Chen, furious, raised his hand as if to hit me. Little did he know, I grabbed his wrist and threw him aside. At that moment, voices came from below the stairs. Some classmates came up chatting and laughing. Lin Chen exclaimed in surprise. He quickly stepped backward, accompanied by a scream. Lin Chen rolled straight down the stairs. No way. I was dumbfounded. I barely used any strength to push him. The surrounding classmates were in chaos. Oh my god. What is going on? Hurry and send him to the school clinic. Lin Chen sat up with the help of a group of classmates. He looked at me pitifully. Lin, classmate, why did you push me? My mind went blank for a second. Just a rebuttal like Kumamon's. You're talking nonsense. I didn't push you at all. Passers-by chimed in and said you had issues. We all saw it with our own eyes. That's right, it was you who pushed Lin Chen down the stairs. Just because you look ugly is one thing, but you also bully your classmates. People around were standing up for Lin Chen. Meanwhile, Lin Chen was injured all over, covering his face. But after hearing the voices of those around condemning me, the corners of his mouth subtly curved up. I didn't push him. No limit. You can just check the surveillance footage. Upon hearing this, Lin Chen's expression darkened. He simply closed his eyes and fainted. In a certain VIP ward in the hospital, Lin Yuandong angrily dragged me inside. Come in. He pointed at Lin Chen, who was comfortably lying on the hospital bed. My dad angrily scolded. Look what has happened to your brother. My shoulder was grabbed painfully. I could clearly feel. My dad was really angry. To be honest, it was when the whole class laughed at me for being ugly. I felt so sad. But at that moment, my heart was in great pain. I said I didn't push him. He fell off by himself. Lin Chen's voice was somewhat choked. It wasn't you who pushed me. Did I want to injure myself? Why would I do that? Dad glared at me. Your brother is just a kid. Your brother has been timid since he was small. Unlike you, who is so bold. From the day I brought your brother back to the Lin family, I can tell that you've always looked down on him. You have been scheming to hurt him. What is your heart made of? He is your brother, after all. Lin Yuandong roared in anger. He shouted so hard that he started coughing violently. The ward door was suddenly pushed open. Yang Wei hurriedly walked in, looking anxious. Honey, are you okay? Where did you fall? Let me see, quickly. Lin Chen instantly squeezed out a few tears. Yang Wei turned her head. Even the maid UP face cannot hide the harsh expression. It's you again. You. How dare you push my son down the stairs? I see you don't want to live anymore. I will make sure to beat you to death today. I clenched my fists and looked at her defiantly. Do you dare to hit me? Go ahead, hit me and see what happens. I will definitely return it tenfold. Yang Wei turned to Lin Yuandong, wailing. Look at this good son you raised with your ex-wife. Does she want to drive his mother and son to death? We mother and daughter will pack our things and leave the Lin family. Lin Yuandong looked around at his surroundings. He picked up a decoration from the bedside and threw it at me. I told you to stop being stubborn. Look at what you've done to your brother. How dare you get angry at your aunt? How did I give birth to such a scoundrel like you? Saying that, he picked up the nearby ornament and swung it at me. It hurt when it hit me, but I stubbornly didn't dodge. I lowered my head and clenched my fist tightly. I know tears are the most useless thing, but at this moment, I just can't control it. Before I could cry first, Yang Wei and Lin Chen looked as if they had suffered a great injustice. The mother and son both held their heads and cried in pain. Lin Yuandong grabbed my arm and pushed me forward forcefully. Do you think it's fine not to say anything? Lin Chen appeared to be crying sadly on the surface. Yet inside, he couldn't help but laugh secretly. He hid behind Lin Yuandong. He showed me a provocative smile. I was so angry that my body trembled. Lin Yuandong turned his head to look in the direction I was pointing. Lin Chen instantly wiped the smile off his face. He cried even harder. Seeing Lin Chen cry like this, Lin Yuandong withdrew his gaze and stared at me fiercely. What are you pointing at? How can you still point at your brother? Do you want to do it in front of me? Are you going to push your brother down the stairs again? Lin Ziyu. I am so disappointed in you. You need to apologize to your brother right now. I smiled defiantly and replied. I did not make a mistake. Why should I apologize? Lin Yuandong glared at me angrily. You just wait. Today, I will make you submit no matter what. Saying this, he picked up the previous ornament and was about to bring it down hard. At that moment, the door to the hospital room was suddenly pushed open. Lin Yuandong paused his actions. He turned his head to look. To his surprise, a lot of bodyguards were standing at the door. All these bodyguards were dressed in black uniforms. They were neat and orderly. In an instant, Lin Yuandong was startled for a moment. He immediately scowled and shouted, Who are you? This is my son's hospital room. Please leave immediately. The leading bodyguard glanced at me, confirming it was correct. He gestured to the bodyguards behind him. The bodyguards rushed in unison. They began to smash everything in the room wildly. Yang Hui's face turned pale with anger. Holding her son, she exclaimed loudly, Crazy people. You are all insane. What kind of robbers are you? I want to add. A bodyguard snatched away Lin Yuandong's ornament that was about to be thrown at me. He threw it forcefully. The chair brushed past Lin Chen's face. Lin Chen's face suddenly turned pale. He froze in place. There was a slight scratch on his cheek. It was bleeding. Everything came so unexpectedly. Yuan Dong turned back. He immediately rushed to the bedside. Garden. Are you okay? Lin Chen yelled in frustration. Dad. Who are they? I can't have disfigured my face. My face. This time, he wasn't pretending to cry anymore. I was also dumbfounded. What is going on here? Where did these bodyguards come from? It couldn't be. It can't be Yuan Dong's people. However, the bodyguards had no intention of bullying me at all. One bodyguard even brought me a chair. Mr. Hao Yu, please have a seat. It was completely in a way that invited me to watch a show. A head of water. What on earth is going on? Yuan Dong looked extremely angry. Who exactly are you? You've hurt my son's face. He is a star. He might have a gig at any time. They injured him. Can you take responsibility for this? Yang Wei shouted angrily. Do you know my son earns thousands for just one gig? I'm calling the police right now. Don't you all leave. All of you stay and pay for this. The leading bodyguard wore a Bluetooth earpiece. He walked meticulously to the edge of the windowsill. He reiterated what was just said. Miss. The other party said Lin Chen is a star. One gig costs tens of thousands. Luo family villa. A highly esteemed girl was sitting on the sofa. Keep hitting me. Until we reach 1 million. The bodyguard responded and turned around. He gestured to several of the bodyguards. Get to work. Lin Chen shrank back in fear. It was obvious these bodyguards were coming for him. What do you want to do? Mom. Hurry up and call the police. As soon as the words fell, Lin Chen was dealt a heavy slap across the face. His face burned with pain. Lin Yuandong and Yang Wei wanted to step forward, but they were surrounded and kept outside. Lin Yuandong shouted anxiously. Do you know who I am? I'm your son. Yang Wei also lost her composure. She had never encountered anything like this before. Lin Chen covered his face, unable to believe what was happening. You dare to hit me? Another slap followed. The bodyguard had a serious expression. It was completely a routine procedure. The sound of slaps echoed continuously in the ward. Watching Lin Chen take so many slaps, his heart was bleeding. Yang Wei pointed anxiously at me. If you are enemies of the Lin family, don't hit my son. Please don't hit my son. You go hit him. He is also my husband's son. You guys go ahead and beat him. Feel free to hit him however you want. Far East, sister. Lin Chen is crucial to the future development of the group. It is definitely important and cannot be overlooked. It certainly matters. Thinking this, Lin Yuandong also nodded along. You guys go beat Lin Shu. Go hit him. I was stunned. I gave a self-deprecating smile. Then I turned around and ran out of here without looking back. The leading bodyguard chased after me. Looking at my back, he spoke into the earpiece. Young lady. Mr. Haoyu seems to have run away sadly. Understood. Luo Qingli replied Dan Li. The bodyguard immediately asked, should we go pick him up and return to the manor? He seems to be in a bad mood. Linger's little head was trying hard to lean next to the phone. She nodded. Hearing this, she quickly nodded. Health and longevity. Who would have thought Luo Qingli slightly parted her lips? She uttered 2 words, no need. It's done. Why are you anxious? Elder sister. Can you tell that brother is in a bad mood? Luo Qingli pressed the phone off. Her expression showed little change. There was no reason. Helping him this time was merely for show. Given how desperately you begged me. The sky was overcast. Dark clouds were rolling in from the distance. The pace of pedestrians on the street began to quicken. Everyone was busy hurrying on their way. I wandered aimlessly down the street alone. The surrounding neon lights gradually lit up. Go beat Lin Haoyu. He is also my son. This sentence was like a spell. It lingered in my ears. After all, what is it that makes one crave paternal love so much? Even like a beggar. Desiring just a little care from Lin Yuandong. The rain fell pattering down. A boy about my age carried a backpack. He hurried along while talking on the phone. Dad, I know there's a typhoon. I'm rushing home right now. You and Mom don't need to worry. You don't have to come pick me up. I've already arrived at the subway station. I'm getting soaked in the rain. I stared blankly at this male singer. On such a stormy evening again. The typhoon is howling. No one will care about my safety. And no one will care about whether I live or die. LR pad. Luo is playing on the iPad. Upon hearing about the typhoon, she immediately looked. She quickly lifted her bright, sparkling eyes. Her little face was filled with tension. Do you think the young man has returned home now? Luo Qingli's eyes were fixed intensely on the TV. The news anchor on TV was battling the wind, almost getting blown out of shape. He was earnestly reporting live from a certain street in the city. Luo was waving her little hands in front of Luo Qingli. Sister, who would still be out in such weather? Who would need to be out in such weather? Even a fool knows to avoid it. Luo Qingli said this and raised her hand to change the channel. Who would have thought that the next second, a familiar figure appeared behind the reporter. Luo Qingli narrowed her cold eyes slightly. Luo Linger pointed at the TV in surprise. Is that figure my brother? Luo Qingli turned off the TV with a cold face and immediately stood up. It's done. She was anxious since childhood. Why did you turn off the TV? Who was that just now? Wasn't he the older brother? It's so dangerous for him out there alone right now. Sister, you should go pick him up. Luo Qingli glanced at her sister. Her kindness towards him had limits. That fool who doesn't even cherish himself. It's no wonder he got blown away by the wind. She threw the remote away. Luo Qingli went upstairs with a serious face. Wow, there's danger. Just pondering whether to call the Luo family's driver, to see if I can go pick up the young man. Who knew Luo Qingli went upstairs and was back down in less than 5 minutes. She came down again with a cold expression, holding the car keys in her hand. Sister. Linger's eyes lit up. Did you pick up the young man? Luo Qingli ground her teeth. I'm just going out for a walk. Who said I was going to pick him up? On the other side. I sat on the steps of a mall by the roadside. A place that could barely shield me from the rain and wind. My home is far away from the city center. The only subway line that connects is down. The typhoon has caused it to stop running. The Lin family, however, lives in a high-end community nearby. It's a pity that since 5 years ago, that place hasn't been mine. Now I feel a sense of desolation, as if the whole world has abandoned me. Suddenly, a red sports car came to a sudden stop, steadily parked right in front of me. The window descended, revealing a face that was impossibly beautiful. Luo Qingli's gaze was directed forward, her voice carrying an order. I lifted my head, looking astonished. How could you be here saving me? Luo Qingli remained unflustered. Run into the road. She slightly tilted her head. Finally, she allowed her gaze to rest on me. Lin Haoyu. You really have a leisurely elegance, don't you? Can't you tell that a typhoon is about to hit? Are you planning to wait here for the rain to stop? Or are you waiting for the typhoon to arrive? You'll end up as a lifeless body. I suddenly stood up. I'm happy to wait here. Is it any of your business? Even if I turn into a lifeless body, it has nothing to do with you. Luo Qingli's pretty face instantly turned cold. Who do you think you are talking to? I'll ask you one last time. Are you getting in the car or not? What I hate most is Luo Qingli's condescending attitude. As if she doesn't care about herself at all. One must be grateful, just like that. Young lady, please just let me turn into a corpse here. Anyway, no one in this world would care whether I'm dead or alive. The weather is bad. I advise you not to waste your time with me. Suddenly, a cold wind blew and I shivered. I had no choice but to pull back. But actually, I think being alive is quite good. Thank you, young lady. Seeing that I finally softened, Luo Qingli's expression softened slightly. She reached out to grab a pack of tissues and threw them to me. Wipe yourself. I gave her a grateful glance. Thank you. I didn't expect this little demon to be so thoughtful at times. However, Luo Qingli coldly replied again. Don't dirty my car. Indeed, one shouldn't have any hopes from a venomous tongue. On the way here, Luo Qingli recounted what happened in the ward again. Most people would probably be overwhelmed with sadness by now. But this boy in front of me doesn't have a single tear on his face. He even looks a bit calm. Luo Qingli's voice softened for once. Lin Hao Yu. It's okay to cry. There's no need to hold back. I looked in disbelief at this incredibly beautiful girl. I was completely stunned because since childhood, almost everyone has been telling me, boys shouldn't cry. Crying doesn't solve any problems. So I seldom cry. A person I've only known for a few days actually gave me the only warmth on such a stormy night. Gave me the only warmth. It felt like all the grievances I'd experienced throughout the day swelled to their peak in that 1 second. I felt a bit of sting in my eyes. I didn't cry. After adjusting my mood, I turned to look at her instead. A smile lit up the night. Luo Qingli. Thank you. Luo Qingli looked puzzled. What are you thanking me for? I smiled as I looked at her seriously and said, thank you for your concern for me. Luo Qingli let out a cold laugh. Lin Hao Yu. You are definitely the most self-indulgent person I've ever met. I felt my smile on my face start to crack. I pretended not to understand the sarcasm in Luo Qingli's words. Still smiling cheerfully. But you clearly could have just left me to go by myself, right? But you didn't do that, did you? Luo Qingli snorted coldly. It was just a matter of casually taking a life. I have always enjoyed doing good deeds. Soon, Luo Qingli drove into the Luo family villa. She glanced at Butler Li and headed upstairs. Butler Li understood and gestured for me to enter. Mr. Lin, please follow me. I followed behind him to a luxurious room. Because something really happened today. Exhausted, I collapsed directly onto the bed and fell asleep. The next morning, I let out a big yawn. I woke up in an extravagant and luxurious room. I suddenly widened my eyes. I looked around the room. It was then that I accepted that I had stayed overnight at the Luo family's villa. Looking at the time, it was already 6:30. If I didn't hurry, I wouldn't have time to prepare breakfast for Luo. I hurriedly jumped out of bed. I walked out of the kitchen holding the already prepared children's meal. Just as I brought it out, I noticed that Luo had woken up without me realizing it. She was sitting at the dining table with a well-behaved expression. When she saw me come out, she smiled brightly, revealing her little white teeth. Good morning. I was a bit surprised, because I felt the food for my little brother calling to me. The child was like a little kitten waiting to be fed. Both hands were happily tapping on the dining table. I was amused by her cute appearance. I walked over and patted her little head. Luo looked a bit shy. Last night, I wanted to wait for Big Brother to come back. Who would have thought that I ended up falling asleep while waiting? How did you know I was back? I casually asked. The child was eating breakfast. It suddenly came back. Oh dear. Isn't it because of the network connection yesterday? My sister, she. A cool and noble voice came through. Luo Qingli unexpectedly came down the stairs at some point. She looked at Luo Linger with an incredibly kind gaze. The child immediately straightened up her little frame. Sister was very beautiful yesterday. She looks even brighter today. Luo Qingli patted Luo Linger's little head with satisfaction. The maid arrived at the kitchen at the usual time. However, she found that both young ladies in the house were already awake. The Luo family's breakfast time is very fixed. Today, however, it was moved up by a whole half hour. Miss, we will prepare breakfast right away. Luo Qingli pulled out a chair. She sat down with unparalleled elegance. The maid looked puzzled. Do you mean, isn't there something already made? Luo Qingli said. Her deep and beautiful eyes glanced over at me. I lowered my head while thinking about when I prepared breakfast for Luo Linger earlier, and the sandwich I made for myself. I quickly hid the food behind me. Yes. You let your maid make food for you? Are you going to give it or not? Luo Qingli looked at me. Her eyes were filled with threat. It seemed like this young lady eating your food was a daily privilege granted to you. I want to cry but have no tears. Reluctantly, I handed it to her. I looked at Luo Qingli with eager eyes, eating a sandwich and drinking milk. Then she leisurely made a comment. The flavor is bland. Pay attention next time. I smiled on the outside but not on the inside. You can choose not to eat. Luo Qingli snorted coldly. There's a sudden issue at school. I need to leave half an hour early today. Otherwise, do you think I really want to eat this kind of thing you made? Just then, the butler walked over. Young lady, Miss Su Qing has arrived. Hearing this familiar name, I turned my head to look. I was surprised to see the girl walking towards us. Su Qing was clearly taken aback upon seeing me. She then drew a smile. Classmate Lin, what are you doing here? Before I could respond, Luo Qingli suddenly interjected. He is our family's new young male servant. I stubbornly explained. I am just responsible for taking care of him for a month. Taking care of the child. Su Qing's gaze landed on Luo Linger, who was happily having breakfast. Luo Linger, enjoying her meal. She recalled what had happened these past few days. And in that moment, she understood. She smiled gently. The world is indeed so small. She sat down opposite Luo Qingli. Su Qing looked over at me, standing to the side. Are you not going to sit? Luo Qingli sat there, imperious. She lifted her noble eyelids and glanced at me. A male servant should have the awareness of a male servant. What are you sitting for? Unlike the air of nobility around Luo Qingli, the young lady's demeanor was completely different. Su Qing was truly gentle and kind. Her voice was like cherry blossoms drifting in spring. Qingli, don't bully Lin Haoyu. Look, this is what you call an angelic girl. And then look at Luo Qingli sitting opposite Su Qing. She was simply a devil. How can there be such a big difference among beauties? I forced a smile and looked at her. Su Qing, you're such a nice person. Some people are simply worlds apart from you. Luo Qingli shot me a glare. Do you want to die? Su Qing cleared her throat lightly. Let's get serious. There are a lot of things happening at school today. We should hurry to school. It's about a 20-minute drive to the school from here. Plus, there are no transportation options nearby. I couldn't dare to expect Luo Qingli to be so kind as to give me a ride. I grabbed Su Qing's arm. Su Qing. A car? Ming smiled faintly. The Su Villa and the Luo Villa are very close to each other. They are both in the same estate. 2 luxury cars were parked at the entrance, one in front of the other. Luo Qingli expressionlessly opened the driver's seat and sat down. From the rearview mirror, she saw me joking and laughing, looking quite happy as I got in. Luo Qingli frowned and murmured, smiling like that. How could she laugh so hard it might kill him? That stupid look is an eyesore. Luo Qingli indifferently averted her gaze. Engaged the gear. Pressed the gas pedal down to the lowest. With a buzzing sound, the vehicle darted out like a dark arrow. It disappeared in no time. The sudden sound of acceleration startled me. I raised my head to watch Luo Qingli's car drive away. Driving so fast, is she trying to get herself killed? The Su family's driver started the car. Su Qing and I got into the backseat. It was as if the sunlight tilted into the whole car. The air around us felt warm. My stomach cooperatively growled. Immediately, I clenched my fist. I pressed it against my thin lips and chuckled softly. I hurriedly explained. The bank. I didn't have time to eat breakfast this morning. Su Qing asked curiously. Why aren't you eating? I dejectedly drove back. And just made a sandwich. I also got interrupted by Luo Li. And was cleared out. After saying that, I looked at Su Qing with sympathy. Classmate Su Qing. You must find it very tough to have a friend like Luo Qingli. It must be quite hard to get along with her. Su Qing shook her head and smiled. It can be. But actually, after spending time with her, you'll discover many admirable qualities about her. I scoffed. For example, her sharp tongue. Besides that, I haven't found anything else that impresses me. I basically haven't discovered much else. Su Qing laughed again because of me. During our conversation, we had already driven out of the estate. We headed towards the bustling street. We had just been driving for a while. Su Qing asked the driver to pull over by the roadside. She then turned to me and said, please wait for me a moment. After saying that, she got out of the car. I nodded. Anyway, we left early today, so there's no need to worry about being late. After a while, Su Qing came back. I was still holding a paper bag. With a smile, she handed it to me. It's for you. I was surprised as I took it. I bought breakfast for you. I opened the paper bag to see. It contained a warm hamburger and soybean milk. Classmate Suqing. You're really kind. Suqing smiled gently. If it's okay, just call me Suqing. I also smiled back at her. All right. Thank you, Suqing. Not long after we arrived at school, I saw a bunch of classmates surrounding Lin Chen. Lin Chen rolled down the stairs yesterday and blamed it on me. He said I pushed him. This made me a public enemy in the class. Whether male or female, they all stood by Lin Chen. As soon as they saw me walk in, they all glared at me. Lin Haoyu, you still have the face to come to school? Exactly. Look at what you did to Lin Chen. His face is all swollen. And he's a star. Relying on looks to make a living. Do you think you're like this ugly freak? I placed my backpack on the desk. She spoke lightly. No wonder after all these years. Still just an unknown 18-line celebrity. After all, what strength do they have? Upon hearing this, Lin Chen raised his eyes in anger. This statement really struck a nerve with him. 5 years ago, just standing out could make him famous nationwide. But what about him? After struggling for so many years, he is still an unknown little actor. Even if Lin Haoyu was disfigured and sealed off, Lin Chen would still be so lukewarm. Classmates around immediately stood up for Lin Chen. They looked at me angrily. What kind of person are you? Exactly. I've really never seen someone so shameless. The girls in the class were even more upset for their class idol. Lin Chen at least looks good. Even if it doesn't get that exaggerated. It definitely isn't something ugly creature like you can mock. If you have the ability, why don't you try becoming a star yourself? You probably can't even make it to the minor leagues, right? I shrugged my shoulders. I know exactly what I look like. This line seems incomplete and may need context. No one can predict what the future holds. I just hope you don't end up with a slap in the face. Lin Chen glared at me resentfully. He didn't understand what I was angry about. Just an ugly creature who has ruined their looks. Lin Haoyu, do you think you can still compete with me in your current state? Lin Chen, don't stoop to the level of that ugly creature. We all support you. I firmly believe our class prince will definitely shine one day. At that point, it will be some ugly creature who gets slapped in the face. That being said, why don't you take a few more days off from home? Lin Chen came back to his senses. He touched his slightly swollen face. Yesterday for no reason, he was slapped many times by several men in black. When has he ever suffered such humiliation? And besides, he didn't want to come to school at all, okay? It's simply self-destructive to his image. But today is the day the school's drama club selects its members. He has no choice but to come. The drama club at Capital City High School. But it's a shortcut to becoming a star. It's a place that many classmates dream of the most. Even many big directors from the entertainment industry come to the school's drama club to select suitable actors. And most importantly, the president of the drama club is the popular idol Shen Wanting. Such a dazzling superstar is the president of the Capital City High School Drama Club. As long as he can join the drama club, he doesn't have to worry about not having popularity in the future. Won't he become a big hit? Lin Chen secretly made up his mind. He must join the drama club. One day, he will definitely become the hottest idol. Give Lin Haoyu a hard slap. The first class is chemistry. I was lowering my head to write the equations. At that moment, my phone suddenly vibrated wildly. I secretly glanced at the teacher. I quickly took out my phone. It was a group message. There were only 3 people in the group. And Yi Chung was messaging me frantically in the group. Haoyu, hurry out. Where are you? I twitched the corner of my mouth and hurriedly replied. I'm in class, bro. Do you think I'm abroad too? And Yi Chung replied instantly. It's a big deal. This afternoon, the drama club of Beijing #1 High School is selecting members. Don't forget to go. I replied immediately. You mean for me to face the drama club looking like this? This face is not suitable for a drama club candidate. And Yi Chung sent a small emoji. Why are you so short-sighted? The drama club only selects members once a year. Can't you go back to your original look in 3 months? Once you regain your original appearance, wouldn't you dominate the drama club in no time? Besides, your idiot brother definitely won't miss this opportunity either. He still fantasizes about becoming famous by getting selected for the drama club. Go ahead, go ahead. Make sure to give him a good hard time. I pondered slightly. But with my face right now, I really have no confidence. And Yi Chung continued speaking. What are you afraid of? Have you forgotten your special skills? In the end, I still went. The drama club is in the west campus of Jingcheng #1 High School. There are many clubs here. But right now the hottest one is the drama club. One reason is that you can see the popular star Shen Wanting. The second reason is that everyone is fantasizing. What if they become a star themselves? Wouldn't that be great? Just then, chatter was heard from the side. Out of so many people, only 3 members will be selected. The competition is quite intense. What are you afraid of? Lin Chen will definitely make it. After all, he is an actor. Lin Chen spoke proudly. That's a must. I still have this much confidence. I turned my head to look. Sure enough, I saw Lin Chen and his friends. Several people were in the crowd. A few people were exchanging glances in the air. Lin for a moment. Chen for a moment. They clearly didn't expect that I would come as well. I can't be mistaken, can I? Nowadays, even ugly people are dreaming of fame. The one saying this was Lin Chen's best buddy, Lu Yu. Lu Yu looked at me with complete disdain. His face was full of ridicule. Lin Haoyu, can't you have a little self-awareness? It's one thing for Lin Chen and me to come for the auditions. At least the 2 of us are good-looking. Who do you think you are? If you can get selected, I'll live stream myself eating a keyboard. Lin Chen also smirked while covering his mouth. Count me in as well. A few people's conversation was overheard by those around them. Everyone burst into laughter. How dare someone so ugly come to auditions? I really don't know where that confidence comes from. They don't even feel embarrassed. Everyone successfully shifted the topic of public opinion onto me. Lin Chen and Lu Yu were extremely pleased. They exchanged a glance. They smiled gleefully. I shrugged indifferently. The corners of my mouth lifted slightly. Then we shall wait and see.